TNTRadio.live. TNT. Sonia Poulton and today's News Talk, TNT.
And hello and welcome to the Sonia Poulton Show. On today's News Talk, TNT, how the devil are you all doing? Oh, what a day. It's Thursday. We're over hump day, as Jemma would say. Let me see what's going on in the comments this morning. Let me check them out. Good morning, beautiful people. Hello there, Shin. Obviously, it's not morning all around the world. It's only morning in the UK. In some parts of the world, it's evening, and in other parts, it's night. Hey, Mazzy. Hey, River. How are you all doing? Hello, Shug and Raycan. Absolutely wonderful to have you glorious people here with me. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Now, what's on the agenda today? Well, I want to talk about what's coming up this Monday, January the 29th, 2024, where researcher and filmmaker Richard D. Hall will be at the High Court in London for a hearing that is scheduled to start at 2 p.m. Time allowed is 2 hours and 30 minutes, and the hearing will be heard in open court, which means you can be there. So what is this all about? Well, the hearing is for a summary judgment, which has been submitted by the claimants who claim they were injured in the Manchester Arena bomb attack. Richard is being sued because of his film about the Manchester Arena, in which he questions the truth of the official narrative. Now, quoting from Richard's website, he says their application to the court has been made in order to attempt to prevent evidence about the alleged bombing being heard at a future trial. The basis of the claimant's application is they say that Richard's evidence would have no chance of success at a trial. They say the truth about the Manchester Arena bombing was already established by a public inquiry. So let us look at what has been established at a public inquiry and what is indeed the official narrative. Well, you can do no better to find out what the establishment is saying than to turn to Wiki. And the Manchester Arena bombing or Manchester Arena attack was an Islamic terrorist suicide bombing of the Manchester Arena in Manchester, England on 22nd May 2017, following a concert by American pop singer Marianna Grande. It killed 22 people, injured 1,017, and destroyed the arena's foyer. Now, Richard has called into question this attack, as indeed have many people. Many people have said, is this a false flag? And in fact, I actually did say that on the Jeremy Vine show once, shortly after it happened, and I put him to look at various literature about what a false flag is. And he was not happy, shall we say. Now, Richard is opposing the summary judgment application, as I say. He wishes to have his evidence heard. And Richard seems to think that the judge will make the decision on the day, and he or she may well, but that is not a given in my experience. I've spent rather a lot of time at the High Court in the last few years, and I can tell you that sometimes judgment can take weeks. Depending on how difficult the arguments are. But what I find curious is only 2.5 hours has been given for this hearing. Now, I've been involved in summary judgment and strikeout hearings, and they've been for all day. And so it feels almost that it is a given, actually. And I do think it is quite difficult what Richard is attempting to do, because the official narrative has been so well established. And the claim against Richard is that the opinions expressed in his books and films about the Manchester Arena incident amount to harassment of people involved. They are seeking damages of £50,000 and an injunction against his published work. People are allowed to attend. Richard says if anyone wants to attend, there are seats, but limited to a certain number, and they're allocated on a first come, first served basis. And Richard has asked that people dress well, do not speak in the courtroom, and do not try to record the hearing. And I do understand why he's saying that. And it's because, well, in part, because he doesn't want people who are supporting him to look as if they're sort of wastrels, that they are respectable people, that these aren't just, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. And so I get it. And obviously you cannot record in court. That would be considered contempt, and you'd find yourself before the judge in no time. So there you are. That's this Monday at the High Court in the Strand in London. And if you're able to support Richard, do. We will be back shortly with Jemma Cooper. This is today's News Talk, TNT.
Keeping the commitment 24/7.
I come to you for facts. I really appreciate what you and your team do.
Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back to today's News Talk TNT. I'm joined by Jemma Cooper, and we're forming something of a Jemma Cooper Appreciation Society around here. After yesterday's tweet about Jemma and being so absolutely informative, Laura Loves God on Twitter said, "I would also like to show my appreciation of Jemma Cooper. What a star she is. She is very informative and she brings us the news with efficiency, clarity and humanity. Absolutely love her." There you go, Jemma. What about that, eh? Appreciation.
Oh, that's really lovely. That's great. Honestly, I'm touched beyond measure because it's so lovely to get feedback like that. I spent so long in the mainstream, and when I became a presenter, I was a journalist way before I was in front of the camera. I was mostly behind the camera for my career in broadcasting, but the corporation that I worked for, and it wasn't just me, they did it to all their presenters. They never really told you if you were any good because they never wanted anybody to think that they were bigger than the institution, which I never would have done. But it would have been nice to sort of say, well done occasionally. So to hear such lovely praise now I've come out of the matrix, it's really reassuring. And it kind of indicates I'm on the right track, at least with what I'm doing professionally now.
People do like you. And the thing is, Jemma, is that sometimes I feel that, in the business we're in, oftentimes it's the hosts and the presenters who get all the attention, and the people who come in, such as yourself, with these incredibly important bulletins can often get overlooked, but not on this show. Right? Not on this show. I think it's absolutely important and vital to let people know when they're appreciated. And so, Jemma, you are appreciated. Absolutely. And what's this? In addition, UK critical thinker had to cease the work he was doing because of death threats to him. This is obviously in relation to the Richard D. Hall story. Jemma, what do you have for us today?
Well, I'm just going to comment on the Richard D. Hall story because there is a huge link to my former employer there, the BBC. And of course, our wonderful little, BBC Verify Marianna Spring. And I use the word wonderful little with absolute sarcasm there, but the BBC's disinformation correspondent went after Richard D. Hall in a very, very public manner, went and filmed him at his stall, his market stall, where he sells his books and his DVDs and all his research, in Wales, and harassed him about his work to do with Manchester, and didn't want to listen to anything, he didn't want to talk to her. He said, I'm not engaging with you because you'll just twist my words. And of course, that's exactly what happened. But as a result of her harassment on him, he lost his stall in the marketplace, and he couldn't go out publicly and sell his work. So yeah, I think that's been instrumental in actually, raising the public awareness of his work, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But the BBC, they went after the Light paper and the editor Darren. They're just going after anyone in the alternative movement in an attempt to discredit, smear and silence. So, if people can support Richard in the most respectful way, as he rightly says, don't mess around with judges in court, don't film, don't talk back to the system, don't start talking about common law and all that stuff, because the judges and the courts really don't like that. Go and represent, the movement in the best way you can, and show support for the man, because he's been working for decades in the alternative way. He was one of the first in the UK, wasn't he, Sonia?
Oh, absolutely. He was. I made a series of films, by the way, called the Gatekeeper series, and Marianna Spring is one of my gatekeepers. And I covered that very story that you're talking about. It was absolutely abhorrent that they literally had the full force of the BBC that went for him. This is frightening when this happens. And did you see the clip with Darren, where Darren, I think Darren's photographer is actually saying, we're really concerned about the way you're setting up this interview and how you're going to present us. And Marianna Spring's like, no, it's not going to be like that. Next thing you know, boom, the headline is exactly like that at the BBC. So absolutely cannot be trusted. But Marianna Spring, lots of question marks over that young lady, shall we say. So